It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
I am Alan Saunders. That is not Zachary Smith. That is Nick Farabaugh. The return of Farabaugh Fridays to Steelers Afternoon Drive. Zachary Smith and Derek Bell on their way to St. Vincent College in Latrobe for, on the way to Latrobe for tonight's Friday Night Lights practice at Latrobe Memorial Stadium. They'll be joining me this evening. So me and Nick out here in Latrobe already. We're going to get things kicking off with Afternoon Drive, and then we'll have lots of content from Friday Night Lights later on. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Alan. It's nice to be in familiar stomping grounds. You had me on a few weeks ago, but I'm back again.
There it is. We just can't get rid of you here. Steelers Now, YouTube channel, all that good stuff. I want to talk about some takeaways from the first week or so of training camp practices here in a little bit. But the first thing I want to talk about is this. The big news of the day around the NFL is that Micah Parsons just lit the match with the Dallas Cowboys, and he requests a trade very publicly, puts lots of ugly details about the negotiation process out there for everyone. And the Cowboys not looking great right now as things stand. Doesn't mean they can't eventually get there, but to me, my big takeaway from watching this unfold, and I know there's some odds out there saying the Steelers are in. That's not happening. But just that, man, the Steelers are so much better at this than most teams in terms of how they do business with their star players.
Yeah, you mean they don't try to do the scummy practice of skirting around a player's agent in negotiations like the Cowboys are doing? That's wild, first of all. Just talk to the agent. I mean, that's literally all they had to do. Jerry Jones took a guy that wanted to give them a hometown discount and become a career-long Dallas Cowboy and turned it into a trade request. That's
and not just any trade request. I mean, a public, nasty trade request.
Right. This guy wanted to sign last year. He wanted to sign right after his third year, give them a crazy hometown discount, and become a Cowboy for life. I mean, that's what he wanted to do. And all of a sudden now you have this trade request. And listen, this very well is probably, and maybe the most likely outcome is this resolves just like the Myles Garrett situation does. And he gets this long-term deal on September 1st, and the Jerry Jones hype machine, either it's publicity, whether it's negative or positive, he loves it. His name's in the spotlight. Cool. That's probably what's happening here. But the Steelers, I love the way the Steelers do business with their guys. Every time we ask about them, Alan, it's some glowing quote about the guy and Omar saying, we're not going to talk contract publicly. And very oftentimes, the player also echoes that because it is a sentiment, or if the player says anything at all, it is how grateful they were about how professional the Steelers were about this. They don't leak things publicly. Even the TJ Watt negotiations, which had, a back and forth among insiders, the Steelers never said anything themselves, and TJ never said anything himself. This never got ugly. It's not like the owner, like, for example, Jerry Jones going out there and is just taking shots at Micah Parsons for no reason at all. It's never going to happen with the Steelers. The Steelers do this in a professional way, and they don't do it like the Bengals either. That Trey Hendrickson stuff and the Shamar Stewart stuff became public and nasty. The Steelers is – I don't remember the last nasty negotiation Pittsburgh had. It's been a long time. Every time, even when things kind of break down and maybe things aren't working out and, the guy maybe wants out, it doesn't necessarily get super nasty unless it's AB, and that's a separate discussion entirely of itself. So I just think the way the Steelers do negotiations, they do their talks is a way that is a model franchise in that regard. And that's why Omar Khan is loved by NFL agents and players like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's been some stuff with some minor players like Steven Nelson, obviously that didn't get, that got kind of ugly a little bit, but not with star players, right? Not with guys that they think are franchise cornerstone types. They get their stuff done. And I think there's a subset of Steelers fans when, you and me and everybody else who covers the team spends all summer saying, yes, the Steelers are going to sign TJ Watt to a contract extension. Yes, they'll pay him $40 million a year. Yes, he's worth it, et cetera, et cetera. There's always somebody in my mention saying, why don't they drive a hard bargain? Why don't they make him play out the contract and then threaten to franchise tag him twice? And it's because, like, look at the reaction to what the Dallas Cowboys are doing from the NFL world. Like, that's how you become a laughingstock. That's not how you get the best deal for your team.
Yeah, I guess the last nasty one they had was Lev Bell. That one got pretty public and nasty, but I mean, that was a long time ago. And Le'Veon Bell, had a very specific high set thing that he wanted to do that the Steelers weren't necessarily willing to do. And we know the Steelers' offer too would have given him a very nice deal. So the Steelers, as you kind of mentioned, Alan, they just do what they need to do to get these guys done. TJ was done before camp whenever it was panicking. I remember, when Minka was a star, that was done basically in the quiets of night. Alex Highsmith, quiet of night. The Deontay Johnson contract never got ugly. He held in for 2 days and then signed a deal. I could just go through so many different examples of the Steelers being able to do this with their superstars. Cam last year, Muth last year. It took a long time, but it never got ugly, never got public. None of those did. And so I do think the Steelers have a way of doing it and have a way of showing appreciation to their guys too. If the market is set and there is a precedent, more oftentimes than not, the Steelers are going to match the precedent. I think that's another thing. They are a good faith negotiator. They met everything that Myles Garrett got in a lot of his deal with TJ Watt. They gave him the 3rd-year guarantee, got more money. Like, there's a lot that they did there. So no matter kind of your evaluation of the deals, they generally do kind of go to top market, be in line with precedent, and they show good faith to their superstars.
Yeah, and I think that's like what you want your team to be. Like, I don't understand why there's people that seem to like feel that that's a bad thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers to be a respected franchise, respected organization, being known as a team that takes care of its players, that gets deals done when they say they're going to get deals done. Like, you can. That doesn't mean that they get the absolute best possible deal every time. Like, you could really drive a hard bargain every time. And would TJ Watt have signed for a little bit less if they really strung it out and drug him through the ringer? Maybe you save $1 million or $2 million, but like, it's not worth it in the long run. That doesn't it's penny wise and pound foolish. It doesn't benefit the team in the long run to try to screw over your star players from $1 million here and $1 million there when you can just get deals done and keep people happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think of, the 49ers last year with Ayuk. I mean, that situation is still lingering with that organization.
Yeah.
And I think their feelings towards Brandon Ayuk are forever changed. I think naturally that's what happens when things get that ugly, even if they resolve. I never thought that their situation with Deebo Samuel was ever the same again after that. When he requested a trade, got ugly, obviously ended up trading him now, and his kind of time is on a downturn, but it never fully repaired there. So when you show good faith to guys and you show that they're valued and you show that you are a good faith organization and value them in that way, they give you the same energy back. And the Steelers do get that from their superstars. So I do think that's a big positive for them. If you are a superstar in the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, you can basically guarantee that you will be taken care of when your time is to come. Like, that is the one thing that they do very well in the contract negotiations. They've done it with TJ. They've done it with Cam. They did it with Highsmith. They did it with Minka. If there's a superstar that breaks out this year, if Joey Porter Jr. takes the leap that he will be taken care of. All these guys will be taken care of if they are stars. And so I do think that's one thing. Look at Deshaun Elliott, for example, as well in this, right? I mean, a guy that comes on a cheap deal, has a career season, is basically a model Steeler in every single way. They give him a nice pay raise, 2-year extension, boom, he's here. So the Steelers show appreciation of the players that they value like that.
Going to get a question on this topic that I want to get to now before we talk about some other stuff. This is from Dr. Shadows Films, who says, Alan, why do so many players in the NFL have to hold out to get their contracts? This hardly happens in the NBA and MLB. I would like to know your answer. I think it's a really interesting question. I don't know that players have to, but I think the difference is that the NFL has a relatively long off-season program. You have weeks and weeks of OTAs and minicamp that are pretty irrelevant for star players that they don't really need. Like, I think the difference is that if 0 NFL players want to come to minicamp, 0 NFL players want to go to OTAs. So guys hold out from them because they're in a contract negotiation and they don't want to do it anyway. So they don't, not only do they not want to do it, they don't think there's any benefit to doing it. And so why not use that as your leverage to try to get your contract? I don't think there's an equivalent. Like, it's not like LeBron has to go play in summer league and then he's going to go hold out for a new contract instead of doing that. Like, I don't think there's an equivalent to other sports.
There's not. And the other thing compared to the MLB, the NBA, the NHL, even the Premier League, is those contracts are generally fully guaranteed. There's not minutia to go with unguaranteed structure like there is in the NFL. The NFL is the only sport that has these guaranteed structures that are kind of different. So oftentimes when it's a holdout, it's generally not even considered. It's not even the average per year, or it's not even the contract length. Oftentimes it's down to guaranteed structure. And that's the thing that oftentimes drives these to a length that they wouldn't be, right? In the MLB, you offer a flat number. You offer 10 years, $750 million, and that's what he's guaranteed. Like, you're paying that full contract. You're on the hook for it. In the NFL, you pay 4 years, $120 million, and that guy might not see 40 to 60 million of that money. Like, it's just different. So I do think that's also part of it, is that there's a different leverage game to play in the NFL with guaranteed money versus other leagues where these players are getting fully guaranteed contracts.
Yeah, I mean, like, the whole idea of, like, honor your contract, which I see, like, people say is, like, any NFL contract outside of the guaranteed portion of it is just monopoly money. Neither side really feels any that's not a commitment to anything. It's not a promise to anything. It is just numbers on paper that, happen to be convenient at the time. They don't have any meaning unless it's guaranteed. And that's what's different about the NFL compared to these other sports. Like, you get to a place, okay, Minka goes to Miami, no guaranteed money left on his deal, not where he wanted to sign, not where he wanted to be, not the arrangement that he made when he signed that contract. Why would he be okay with just playing that out? Why wouldn't he say, no, you're going to give me a new deal because this isn't what I signed up for, and all of this, you don't have any, you're not beholden to me at all. The Dolphins could have cut Minka Fitzpatrick the day after they traded for him, so if there's no guaranteed money in it, it's not real. It just basically doesn't exist.
Right. I mean, that's part of it. And also the NFL, I think there's this kind of thought from players. They are playing such a brutal sport that is so taxing on the body, obviously is taxing on the brain with all these studies, that getting some security matters a heck of a lot to these players, right? Having 2 guaranteed years means I can buy my house and I know I'm going to be here the next 2 seasons. That is something. And if they cut me, so what? I get the money anyways, right? Like, that's the thing with guaranteed money. So these players are just trying to get some security. For example, Micah Parsons, all Micah Parsons wants to know is that he's going to be a Dallas Cowboy for the next 4 years. Like, that's what he wants to know. And so there's a security factor to this. When you are playing such a game like this, guys don't want to be going year to year on franchise tags, even though those are fully guaranteed. You would much rather have the multi-year deal with this on the money and know what you're doing. And then if it comes down to it, okay, if it's in 2027 where the out is, we can check where we are. He's still playing an elite level. Let's get the guaranteed money back in there and re-up. Like, for example, Minka Fitzpatrick just went through this. His last 2 seasons on his contract were complete dummy years, essentially 0 guaranteed money. So he got a guaranteed year this year. So he knows at least he's going to be here. And so he's going to be in Miami. So I think that's something to think about, is when you're talking about guaranteed money, a lot of these players are looking for security in their situation.
Yeah, and I think the last thing here that I want to hit on is, in general, I think the NFLPA has done a worse job of negotiating with the league and putting structures in place within the sort of bounds of the rules of the league that are favorable to the players. And that's why they feel like they have to go outside of them so often. I think I really think one of the reasons that this happens in football, in addition to everything else we said, is that in baseball, if this many players were having this type of issue over and over again, the Major League Baseball Players Association would have gotten it fixed. They would have they would have found a way to enact structural change in the sport, whether that's guaranteed contracts or whatever, that the NFLPA has just never been able to get their act together and do.
Right. I mean, look at what's been happening at the NFLPA, with the reporting and stuff. I mean, so it's obviously they don't have the top structural kind of right there to do it. I mean, there's nothing to push, right? I mean, Christian Wilkins right now is going to enter a big time contract kind of court case essentially with the Raiders, and is the PA even going to be able to fight with them? You know what I mean? I mean, that's what the NFLPA is at right now. And so, yeah, they've never had the ability to push for change like that. And when they do sign CBAs, oftentimes you look through it and you're like, why did they sign this? They get taken to the cleaners on just stuff. It's pretty wild. The NFLPA has never been able to do that. And so, yeah, that's a part of it. Players have to enact their leverage somehow, and they do it on an individual level right now rather than a collective level.
Yeah, I agree. Let's get to the Pittsburgh Steelers training camp, which continues today. Friday Night Lights practice at Latrobe Memorial Stadium. First half dozen or so practices in the books already. We got a padded practice in. What are some things that you think are some trends that you've seen over, what is it now, 6 or 7 practices? Well, I don't know whether you count Tuesdays or not. I guess it depends. They didn't really do anything but go inside in the gym and run around a little bit. But what are some things you take away as some trends throughout this process that you think are interesting or are kind of maybe big picture things that have surprised you so far?
Well, I think one thing is very clear. They're going to be a lot trickier defensively. I think schematically, we've just seen a lot more moving around the front, 3 outside linebacker package, guys rushing from different sides over the middle, the A-gap as spinners, and all 4 of the top outside linebackers have done all of that. So that's going to happen. We've seen more double A-gap mugs. We've seen more zone blitzes. We've seen slot blitzes. We've seen strong safety blitzes. We've seen way more disguising of coverages. I think we've seen more coverages in general. Like, one thing I think, when we have looked there is, we've seen probably a little bit more quarters. I think that's something that I think is going to come out in this. They have the personnel to do it, so I think they're going to run it a little more. Still going to be obviously a cover 1, cover 3 team mainly, but I think that's part of it. So I just think the schematics, what they're going to do defensively is going to be so far different than last year when they were super static, played a lot of zone coverage because they didn't trust their DBs in man, and kind of had to load up on the run game because their run defense was leaky against really good teams. So that was something that jumped out immediately. I think offensively, the biggest trend I saw was just how important the tight end position is going to be to this offense. Not that it's a surprise. They're going to roster 4. I think we know who the 4 are going to be already. And Jonnu Smith's in kind of inclusion kind of makes him wide receiver 2, essentially, in some ways, and how he's being used. He's going to be used like a wide receiver. He's going to be used as like this do-it-all weapon. I mean, we saw the 0-4 personnel, which is 0 running backs, 4 tight ends yesterday, where they pitched it to him. That's something they did in the game in Tennessee. He's going to be a yak threat for them. Muth is going to be a big underneath middle of the field chain mover. And then you look at Darnell Washington, and he's kind of the wild card, and even Connor Hayward's going to play a little bit. So all those guys are going to be included, and they just don't have the wide receiver room right now where it's better than those guys to be included. The other thing I thought was interesting, Alan, was I was talking with Zach Azzani on Wednesday, and he told me to watch out for 21 personnel. So I think the running back room, specifically with Kenny Gainwell having like receiver ability, is going to be something we've seen Gainwell used a lot, split out, even with the first team, with Warren and Johnson on the field together. So some 21 personnel I think is going to pop out as well. And Kenny Gainwell legitimately might have more receptions than rushes this year. Would not be surprised if that happened. So that's kind of my offensive takeaway and my defensive takeaway overall.
Yeah, I think the big thing we were looking forward to coming into camp is how they were going to put those 2 new weapons, Smith and Ramsey, into the defense, and I think and offense respectively. And I think it's been really interesting just to watch that process play out. It's been super smooth on the defense, man. I think they're going to be really difficult to play against. Ramsey as a slot corner is just nasty, and his ability to cover all body types from the biggest tight end to the shiftiest slot receiver, makes him a real Swiss Army knife for the Steelers defense. Jonnu Smith looks like a playmaker. I think that's what they need first and foremost on offense. It's just more playmakers. I still think they probably need to add a wide receiver if they really want to get the offense to where it it could get to, but I think they're in very good shape with those additions. The other big picture thing for me that I've been watching is just Aaron Rodgers and the way he assimilates into the team. I've talked a lot about it. I think it's like as smooth as you could have possibly imagined in terms of he seems like he's really popular around the team. He's getting along with everyone. There, talk to the coaches who love him. I understand it's been a week of training camp, and certainly there will be, bad feelings down the way when there's negativity and you lose games and things like that. But man, I don't really know what else you could ask from Aaron Rodgers in terms of the off the field fit so far. And he can really still gun it, man. He had a throw yesterday that I put a big star next to it in my notebook, but like it was just he leaned back and really, really buzzed one in there to DK Metcalf, and I'm like, yeah, he still got it. Like I think he's still pretty good. Do you feel like now a week in, you are more or less optimistic about the Pittsburgh Steelers this season after a week of training camp?
I think most of my preconceived notions were made mostly true. So I'm pretty similar, maybe slightly more optimistic. I think they're gelling really well. Do you talk about Rodgers gelling with the offense? I think Ramsey's gelling really well with the defense just as well.
And Thornhill, both
right,
of them.
Right. From everyone I talked to, there were reports out of Miami that Ramsey was like a locker room detriment. Everyone I've talked to says he's so detailed. He helps these young guys. He's just willing. He's engaged. So that's something to take into consideration too. I'm a little more optimistic about it. I still am concerned about the offense. I still think the pieces are a little odd to fit together. I think they're experimenting right now. Like I see Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers doing a lot of experimentation out there, which is why the offense has had like this just not great start. I think they're figuring out a lot of things right now. And what we see week one probably isn't what we're seeing right now. I think it's going to be a lot different. So we'll see how the offense comes along. I totally agree with you. They need to watch it. They do. Even with the tight ends they have, I don't even think it needs to be a great player. It doesn't need to be a guy that is this bona fide wide receiver too, but it needs to be a guy that fits into the vision. And Gabe Davis, I think, makes a lot of sense in that regard. I'm not even a huge Gabe Davis fan, but I just think his blocking prowess, his ability to stretch the field fits really well with what they need. So stuff like that, just adding another guy there, I think that gives you a little more diversity in that room. Because I do think, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, they have their roles, but I do think they need another bigger body that can go in there and just block and physically implement something in there and like 12 personnel to offset Jonnu because he's not going to be a great blocker regardless. So that's something I've kind of looked at. I do think the safeties have been better than I thought. Like Thornhill's had a good start to camp. Chuck Clark's honestly come along really nicely. I like Chuck Clark a lot. Wouldn't hate to see them add one more safety to that room, but right now I think they're fine. So yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic for them to, make the playoffs as I was before this, but could they win a playoff game this year? Sure. I think that's possible.
Yeah. I think I was optimistic before that. I don't really think my priors have changed a whole lot. Still have some concerns about the offensive line, pass protecting for Rodgers. I think that's probably my biggest concern. And yeah, I do think they will add a wide receiver, but I think they need to. And obviously, if you haven't done it yet, then that becomes a situation. Let's get to a couple questions here. One from our good buddy, Thomas Brocious, longtime member of the audience here and purveyor of ballage. Thomas says, is Dylan Cook capable of being the swing tackle? Do you treat swing tackle differently when you are concerned that your starter isn't going to cut it than when you just want to be prepared for possible injury to a capable starter? Is this Dylan Cook's last year to establish himself?
Well, yes to the third question. It is absolutely his last year. If he's going to do it, he's going to do it now. Good start to camp, I think, though, for him. I think he's been solid. In the one day they gave him in Broderick's absence as first-team left tackle, I thought he looked good. I thought he looked good on the first day of pads. He had some good reps against Sawyer and Herbig that I thought were really nice to see. Here's the thing. I don't think he's going to be the swing tackle because I think that's probably going to be Calvin Anderson, who also, in my opinion, has had a pretty good start to camp. So I do think, getting a 2-year deal there, that's probably his job. But I do think Cook, they like him. He plays 4 positions. They've also trained him at left and right guard, so he can be a versatile piece. Like Cook is probably competing more against guys that are a little bit more down the depth chart on the interior line, like Max Sharping and Nick Broker and Stephen Jones and these guys that are trying to make a push for, the 8th and 9th spots in that room. So I think that's who his competition is. Could he play well enough to maybe take that swing tackle spot? I mean, I can't rule that out. I don't think like Calvin Anderson has some vice grip on that it's just unbreakable. If Cook plays well enough, sure, it could. But I don't think they approach it any differently because I think they have high hopes for Broderick. I'm concerned about Broderick, and I certainly have my concerns based off his film last year and the start to camp. But I think the Steelers are thinking about this, saying we think Broderick is going to be the answer at left tackle. I'm not so sure about that, but I don't think they're approaching it like that as a doomsday scenario.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they burned the boats with Broderick and just said that's the left tackle no matter what. There's no other option. It doesn't matter. And I think that to me the thing that absolutely solidifies that is that he's been out with this groin injury, and we've seen Dylan Cook at left tackle, and we've seen Calvin Anderson at left tackle. We haven't seen Troy Fautanu over there, right? Like if there was any thought of them not just staying the course with Broderick Jones, that would have happened, right? And so I think Broderick Jones is left tackle no matter what. I think Troy Fautanu is the right tackle no matter what, unless there's an injury. And so I don't think, to answer Thomas's question, the Steelers are acting like they don't trust their tackles, even though maybe they shouldn't. I think there's reasons that they shouldn't, but that's not the way they're approaching this offseason. They're approaching this offseason like those are their guys. They're entrenched. They're locked in. And here's a couple backups. Calvin Anderson getting a 2-year deal for me says they think he's way ahead of the curve compared with Dylan Cook, but I do think Cook has looked good in training camp so far. I've always liked him. I've always thought he was a good player. But I think those 4 guys are your 4 tackles in some form or fashion. And it's a roster battle for Cook. Is the 9th offensive lineman a 4th tackle, or is it a 5th interior guy? I think that's the battle for him to make this team. Can he pass Calvin Anderson? That would so obviously make his spot for him. And then Anderson being on a 2-year deal sort of guarantees that he makes the roster. Steelers almost never cut guys like that. So I think there's still a window here for Cook. It is definitely, I think, a critical year for him.
Yeah, it is. And listen, he could be the 4th tackle and the 5th interior guy because he does have the guard capability. So that's something. I mean, listen, I think we have certainly 7 guys that we consider locks on the line. The 5 stars, McCollum and Anderson, I think, are making this team really no matter what. So maybe there's 2 spots. Is it Max Sharping? Is it Nick Broker? Is it Stephen Jones? Is it Aiden Williams? Like Gareth Warren's in that convo. Like there's a lot of different guys in there. But Cook is unique in the fact that he plays 4 spots. And so he can condense roles as a backup into one player. So I do think they are going to probably keep a tackle. Spencer Anderson's also locked. So never mind. There's 8 in there that are locked. So there's 1 spot open. So Cook's competing against all those guys for 1 spot. And Anderson has said he's a full-time guard now. We'll see if he's a guard only or if they put him at tackle. But I think Cook could be that 9th guy that plays tackle plus guard.
Yeah, I agree. This is a question from Praying for You in PA, who says, hey guys, thanks for doing what you do. Can't get enough Steelers news. Is Johnson or Gainwell doing better at pass pro and backs on backers? That's an interesting thing to keep up on since it determines who's RB2. I'm not sure that it does determine who's RB2, but I don't think there's any question that Kenny Gainwell is the better pass down player between those 2 guys.
100%. It doesn't say who's RB2 because Caleb's going to be RB2. He's going to get a lot of early down work as a rusher, but it does cap his ability to kind of be on the field on 3rd downs and all these passing situations. Like you're just not going to see Caleb out there a lot in 2-minute drills. It's going to be Jalen or Kenny, maybe both at times, because they've done that. They've done Jalen Warren and Kenny Gainwell on the field at the same time, oftentimes when they are repping 3rd down reps and things of that nature. And listen, if you look at the Eagles last year, they took Saquon off the field to get Gainwell on there to pass pro on 3rd downs and obvious situations for Hurts. They trusted him in pass pro. So Gainwell has that on his hat. So I think Gainwell's definitely further ahead. I do think Caleb naturally has a high floor of playing time just because he's a talented rusher. He's going to get carries. He's going to play. But his ceiling in terms of playing time is all going to be figured out by his pass pro ability and really also how his receiving ability comes along. I mean, he only had 22 receptions last year at Iowa. So I've actually been pretty encouraged by that part of his game, Alan. I think he's shown some natural hands. He had one drop, but he's catching it outside of his frame. He's not a body catcher. He has softer hands than I thought. Route running needs to come along, but like the hands are there at least. So there's some positive things there for Caleb, but I think he's going to be a guy that's going to come along slowly in pass pro. He's pretty raw there.
Yeah, and that with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback is obviously of the utmost importance. And when you have two other guys that are pretty darn good at it, and Warren and Gainwell, I just have a hard time seeing Caleb Johnson getting a lot of that type of third down, obvious passing situation work at any point this year. That doesn't mean it won't happen for him in the future, but I just think he'll be a clear third option in those scenarios, almost no matter what, for the 2025 season. Nick, great 30 minutes. Went super fast, already out of time here. Before we roll, why don't you tell the people where they can find your work?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, Farabaugh FB, Blue Sky Nick Farabaugh. Check out the stuff at penlive.com/Steelers.
And you can find me at asaunders_PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now sites account, SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the words so I can get paid. Sign up for SN Plus. You get all the best stuff from me, DB, and the rest of the SN team. And we have an August subscribers only live stream coming up. We got to get a date set for that, but you want to make sure you're subscribed ahead of time. Anyone can subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications here on YouTube. That's free. Really helps us grow the audience of this podcast. We have 16,200 and Juju Smith-Schuster subscribers. I was struggling to find a 19th. It's not a super common number in Steelers history here. You got a 19 up there in your head, Nick?
Well, Calvin, I guess.
Yeah, Calvin's the current one.
Or 19?
It's not. David Woodley was a quarterback in the 80s. That's the only other one that comes. I'm sure there have been more, but that's the only other one that comes to mind for me.
I got one. This one's an old one from my childhood days. How about Tyler Grisham?
Okay, there you go. I knew there had to be another wide receiver type, but I couldn't think of one. Yeah, David Woodley wasn't at the top of anybody's list. That's for sure. So, if you guys got a 19 you can think of, that's a tricky one. I can't.
Is that
I can't think.
This one might be. I don't even remember. Is that the number DeMarcus Ayers wore?
No, he was 83.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he was 83 for the Steelers. So, oh no, 15. This says. Okay, well, I was wrong. Kobe Hamilton was 83. Ayers is 15. Okay, there we go.
I mean, I have the list up right now, and it's not a great list. I mean,
yeah, it's a pretty meager group.
It is. It's a very short group.
And if you are listening other than on YouTube, you can give us a 5-star review. We love to read those here on the air as well. So thank you so much for listening, for watching. Until next time, for Nick Farabaugh and Alan Saunders, have a nice night.